And thank you for taking your time and welcome to another KLJS JavaScript Wednesday, except it's not Wednesday. Right. So today is a special edition. It's a collaboration between Women Who Code KL and JuniorDev. And before we begin, we'd like to thank Microsoft Malaysia for hosting us. So I'll let Wendy introduce what's Women Who Code KL.
Oh, it's yeah. Okay, but basically we just want to encourage more women to go in tech. So yeah, that's.
How do they join?
You just come to our events and talk to us. There's no joining really. It's an open community. So just like JuniorDev and KLJS, it's a community, not like a membership. But you can sign up for newsletters from the official Global Women Who Code for job opportunities and stuff. Yeah. And I guess JuniorDev is organized by Steven. You want to say something about JuniorDev?
I will talk about it later, so we can appreciate first. So just go. Oops.
Okay, so the Wi-Fi is not available yet.
Oh, it's over there. Well, I'll just read it out. It's
MS event 555 EM.
MS event 555 EM. That's the EM.
That's the code.
MS event 555 EM. Elephant man. But what's the MSFT guest?
Yeah.
So get connected. Okay, so I'll just go through the agenda very quickly. Basically today is a series of 7 lightning talks, 10 minutes each. But we'll start off first with an intro by Ashwin from Microsoft. He's a senior tech evangelist, and he's going to talk a little bit about his company. Then after that, we have 7 times 10. Sorry?
Not talking about myself.
You can talk about yourself as well. We have a whole 10 minutes, so talk less about Microsoft and more about yourself. It's up to you. Yeah. So yeah, very exciting topics coming up. Hope you guys are ready for it. Okay. And then after the lightning talks, we have a 30-minute panel Q&A. So be sure to jot down your questions and ask them all during this panel. Then finally, we have shoutouts and announcements, and then that's the end.
Yeah, so if you guys are shy, you know there's a pigeonhole we showed it just now. So if any questions, you can use that to post questions. Okay? Yeah, in case if you haven't logged in, we're gonna show it to one more time.
It's like a polling website. It's like a survey.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there's no.
Alright, so intro the organizer, right? So actually it's a mistake. I hope you do it later, but so basically I'm doing 2. So KLJS for the JavaScript with him, he's a co-organizer for me. Another one is a JuniorDev Malaysia. That's a newer one. So we did a couple of meetups, monthly meetups and stuff. Last month we skipped because we're gonna focus on this month. We are moving towards more workshops and also mentoring session in the future. So there's more stuff coming up. So just background of JuniorDev is actually originated in from Sydney, from Sydney, I'm sure, yeah, Australia. And he went to New Zealand and he went to Singapore. And now they actually spread out in Australia. They will as well have JuniorDev as well. So it's basically the idea is to help junior developers to grow and network and to learn and stuff. So they can, instead of 1 or 2 years they quit, they just continue on to be a senior developer or whatever they want their career, their tech side. So that's the idea of it. So that's why they're going to be like workshops and mentoring session and all. And KLJS has been running quite some time. This was previously by Jonathan, and then he handed over to us. So we are doing it now. So it's very involved with like technical talks and senior guys talking about JavaScript, fighting over JavaScript, React better or Vue.js better or Angular better. So we are not biased just for Angular, just to say it. So you can select any framework that runs your code. So yeah, so if we do KLJS, we do monthly meetup. So that's we did. We just had it 2 weeks ago. So that was a good turnout as well. although it was last minute. Yeah. So you will be you won't be another meetup this month. You're gonna skip it, follow your next month. So just watch out. You want just follow the group Kuala Lumpur JS all together. Just follow us, and then we have more updates on that. And just back to the pigeonhole, just go to pigeonhole at .80, password is KLJS, just put the questions, and me and Brianna from WWCode will be moderating later, asking hot questions or probably cause another war that almost almost exploded yesterday during the Q&A at the Angular conference, just so you know. So yeah, alright, so yeah, so actually you want to go for the first speaker, so like just you talk about your life or you want to talk about your relationship as well?
Whatever. SLP. I just need to project it. No, it's okay. Microsoft Malaysia. So how many of you guys haven't been to Microsoft before? Okay, streaming is cheating over here. Okay, welcome. Okay, so we just let me just quickly give an introduction to Microsoft Malaysia a bit, right? So we have two floors over here, so 18 and 17 floors itself. So we have about I think 100-ish employees, and one of the things that we regularly do is that we host communities like this, right? So that's the introduction, I think. We just moved in May. We have been in Twin Tower, Petronas for a while, then moved on to Tower 3, and then we came here, right? So this is pretty brand new office for us, right? In May last year, sorry. So it's about 1 year plus already, right? So I'm gonna be quick. Just wanna quickly just do a bit of what we have done. I mean, as a Microsoft as a whole, right? Then after that, I'll pass along to the organizers. Okay. So I think you guys have seen this many over and over again. That Azure actually love open source really much, or Microsoft love open source pretty much. Of course, we love KLJS, Women Who Code, and JuniorDev too, right? So that's why we hosted them here. Okay, I think this is something that I promised Jaslyn. Right? I told her that I wanted to basically show Satya's face in Angular at that event just on Saturday, right? But I didn't. But hence Satya is here. So so what he said is that in terms of open source, right? One important stuff is that judge us by the action that we have taken in recent past, our action today and in the future, right? So it has been a journey for us to actually embrace open source, right? So you wouldn't really see that open source that much in the previous past, but since Satya has taken over more, we embrace open source more and more. So this is some of the timeline that we have done. Okay, so since 2004, these are some of the numbers. I'm not gonna bore you guys with. So this is where 2014 we .NET Foundation actually created. So we have people like Samsung, Google, Unity, and all that actually joined .NET Foundation, right? To basically create .NET Core platform for the developers and to be loved by the developers as well, right? 2015 VS Code release. How many of you guys are using VS Code right now to do development? Awesome, right? So it's one of the dev tools, right? Or I don't know how to describe it properly, text editor or IDE, or I don't want to describe it, right? But it's basically a tool for you guys to really use, right? And it's one of the top tools right now. Then of course, along like in 2018, you see VS Code ranked #1, developer 2 in Stack Overflow. Then after that, of course, recently, if let's say you guys have heard, Microsoft announced that we're gonna ship Linux kernel in Windows, the full Linux kernel in Windows, to ease your development as well, right? So that is one of the things that how we actually embrace open source itself. So these are some of the key elements that we are doing, right? It's not just we actually take things from open source, we actually contribute back to the open source itself, right? And enable all of the developers and do innovation around open source technologies also. So I'm just gonna, these are some of the customers that we have in open source, right? That have moved on to many of the platform that we have, whether it's Azure, Dynamics, Windows, Office 365 and all that. Yeah, Polycom, so you have human tech from corporate, from education, hospitals, and many others, even games as well, right? They basically run their open source stuff on Microsoft platform. Okay, I'm just gonna skip you guys to this last slides that I have. So this is a lady, she was a technical fellow before, right? So this lady is a technical fellow in Microsoft OneNote, right? How many of you guys use OneNote? Okay. It's not really popular in Malaysia. It's popular in education though, right? So a lot of education lecturers and all that, even YouTube, there's one teacher from Malaysia that actually basically just teach in YouTube using OneNote itself, right? So of course there's so she's a technical fellow, and recently I think she's promoted to CVP for OneNote itself. So I'm just gonna play this video and then I'll pass on to the organizers. Thank you.
So what are some interesting language developments that are happening at Microsoft? Well, obviously TypeScript. I mean, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, would anybody be excited about JavaScript? I would have been like, hell no. I think Anders and team have done a fabulous job, right? And another one, I'd say in a similar vein, that's really showing up a lot, it's exciting, is Rust. You get the performance benefits of C++, but you get more type safety, right? And I think, in general, you want to fail fast. It's so much better to have the compiler catch problems, right? And then if you can't do that, to crash right away. Why do you have a hard insertion code? Then to get these Heisenberg, you're never sure what happened or what led up to it. So I think that's pretty fascinating. And in my own team, working on Web OneNote, a lot of that was actually written in something called Script Sharp. It doesn't exist. It was a C-sharp-like language that would generate TypeScript. And it's not maintained, it's pretty to get that all into Google and TypeScript. So that's pretty cool. And then we're big fans of React Native for cross-plat things, especially for stuff like Lottie, the design team, can prototype animation. And really, it's just so much easier to prototype in the web, right? Do A/B testing. So anything, unless it's really important, that final mile or for the purpose of the feature, we're thinking to not have to worry about native being tied to a particular piece of hardware or platform. So, and yeah.
Thank you, Ashwin, for that presentation. Okay. So let's kick off with our first lightning talk of the day, Alex Lakato. Welcome to next slide.
Magda, welcome.
Okay, so I think all speakers will need to wear this thing because we are live recording, and yeah, it will like okay.
It's on. Right, let's start. Hi, I'm Alex, and I do a bunch of things in this world. I volunteer for Mozilla, and I help them build communities through the Tech Speakers and the RAPS program. But because I like the idea of paying my bills and having a job, I also work as a JavaScript developer advocate for Nexmo. Has anybody heard about Nexmo before? Okay, whoa, more than I expected. So for everybody else, Nexmo does cloud communication API, so you can send SMS messages and make phone calls programmatically. And I want to talk to you about how I made it to be a developer advocate. It's kind of something similar to a senior technical evangelist. It kind of depends on which side of the industry you're in, but it's kind of the same deal. And you're gonna think, why am I speaking about this? Well, it took me 6 years to get here, and then in the past 2 years, the most asked question I get from people is, what's a developer advocate? It's kind of a all-in-one bundle of joy with a lot of fun on the side. That's me right there in a New York City public fountain trying to imitate the mannequin piss. I only got the fine for that one. But I'm part of a team of like-minded individuals who work for Nexmo. We're 20-something of us now, and our job is to be the bridge between developers and that use our product and our product team that's creating the product. It's not just any team. Last year we won a bunch of awards for the best DevRel program overall, the best developer portal, and a bunch of other things that we do. But before I was part of this team in a galaxy far, far away, I was a developer. I started out as a developer and worked my way through here 7.5, maybe 8 years ago. And whenever people ask me how I did this, how I made the jump from developer to developer advocate, I always thought, and my instant response was, with a shit ton of luck. But looking back at other people who have done this in the past 2 years, I've talked to maybe 40 people who have switched from developer or other careers to developer advocate. I kind of figure out there's a scheme to it. There's a path we all took. If you look at what developer relations or what developer advocates do, it's a lot of things. There's this guy called Phil who happens to be my boss, and this is recorded. Phil, we miss you and we really love you. But Phil has a bunch of things that he lists in there in what he calls the DevRel meter. So based on what you do, you fall under evangelist or advocate or community manager or a bunch of other things. There's another advocate called Josh that says not everybody has the same journey into developer relations. It's a lot like magic. You just happen to stumble into it. And I used to agree with him until I spoke to a bunch of people like me around the world. And I figured out there's actually a path we all follow, and all roads kind of lead towards there. I did this survey for about 40 of us, and I asked people one simple question. How did you get started with developer relations? How you got your first job as a developer advocate? What did you do before? And these are the responses I got. Developer and engineer show up the most, but you've got people which were academic philosophers before, ran an API development company, or marketing, or a bunch of other stuff. I was like, okay, so tell me your story. I got asked to speak at an event and we were sponsoring. Then I decided to try speaking at local meetups too, and I found that I enjoyed it. This person didn't want to leave a name, but it kind of resembles all the 7 speakers here. We're all speaking at a meetup, and I'm sure most of you are thinking about doing that anyway. One of the other people on our team says, I also ran a pretty large hackathon series at the time, and it helped that I had done that. I was also spending lots of time helping clients understand their developers internally and externally, so we could better design their APIs. Amanda says, tech writing helped me understand our APIs, which helped me help users when I was at events. If you look at what all people said, it's kind of all the same thing. We like developers so much, we try to help them out. So I looked at everybody and I looked at what makes a developer advocate, and it's 5 things that we have in common. We either do developer community building, public speaking, technical writing, event organizing, or just building shit and putting it on the internet. Now here's the tricky part. Not one of us did all 5 of them. When I started, I was doing 2.5 of those, and I'll show you which 2.5. I was doing 2.5 of them, and I was amongst one of the lucky ones. There's some people who only did one thing and then grew up into doing all of them as part of the job. If you want to get involved with all those activities, Sebastian's going to talk about public speaking just after this. I'm not going to steal his thunder, but after you've tried what Sebastian said, there's a couple of programs online that help you get better at public speaking. One of them is the Mozilla Tech Speakers, which me and Huijing are part of. The other one is called Toastmasters, and there's a Toastmasters Kuala Lumpur group if you want help. If you want to help with technical writing, my honest advice is start blogging. Document all the things you do. Technical writing is not only about writing an article or writing a tutorial, it's also about writing great documentation. I think as part of our jobs as advocates, we don't only write blog posts, and to be honest, the blog posts, that's the cool thing we do. That's the thing we enjoy. The thing behind the scene that helps way more developers is writing good documentation so they don't have to come all the way to our blog post. And recently I've tried this last one, is join a writers club. It's not even a technical writers club, but it did help me write more content and be more, have more of a schedule. If you want to do community building, Mozilla has this other program called the Mozilla Representatives, which basically gives you money to organize meetups like this. If Mozilla is not your thing, Fedora has a different program called the Fedora Ambassadors, which is kind of the same things. Is anyone from the Fedora Ambassadors here? No. Tough luck. If community building is not the thing you think you're good at, you could do event organizing. I looked up today the meetup groups in Kuala Lumpur, and I sorted them by the most members, and there's a bunch, but you can see the little white thing in the corner that says there's a bunch of people interested in the subject, but there's no meetup for them. So you can start organizing your own meetup. I think Microsoft will be really happy to host you here. If you've looked at all the things a developer advocate does, there's only one thing left. And for that, I don't really have a lot of recommendations, solutions. Just build shit. That's it. Build stuff. Code, put it on the internet. It doesn't have to be perfect. It never is perfect. If you look at most open source projects out there on GitHub, the most popular ones aren't perfect. They're just continuously improving. They're sharing what they did with the community, and then they make it better and better and better, and they get help with it. So if you want to become a developer advocate, or how the industry calls us, the developer avocados, you can start today. If you look at the 5 things that make a developer avocado, like speaking, community, building stuff, events, and tech writing, and you figure out you don't have any of them, there's ways you can improve. If you've got 1 or 2 already covered, I'm looking at you, meetup organizers, this is it. This is where you start. This is, if you want to get better, there's another resource that I'm a bit biased. There's another resource I curate called developeravocados.net with Julia. Say hi, Julia. It's a newsletter for people who want to get better at this. We send out resources every week. The next newsletter is actually going to go out straight after this, this meetup at 10 p.m. Full of articles on how you can improve. I want to thank the people who filled out the survey. They were amazing. Most of them have been doing this for a while. There's a bunch of people who are in the first role just as me, and there's actually someone in there who's been doing this for 10 years, and we all started the same way. If you looked at all this and you figured, I'm ready to become a developer advocate, I'm ready to make this strange move, this is my shameless speech, we're hiring. We're actually looking for, we're actually looking for developer advocates in the region. So if you want to make this move, go on our careers website. It's called developer.nexmo.com/team, and you can find the join link there. And with that, I think I really want to thank everybody and say terima kasih. I think I have, yeah. Okay, I got it right this time. It wasn't as good as the Angular conference, so I've got practice. I've got one big ask for you at the end of my talk. There's a link in there that says nexmo.dev/Malaysia. It's another survey. I work on that data and surveys. Please go and fill the survey. It takes maybe 2 minutes, under 2 minutes. And if you fill out the survey as my thank you for you, at the end of the survey, you get the coupon code for 46 ringgit to play around with the EngineersMY APIs. If you don't want to do that, you could at least follow me on Twitter. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks everyone to QB as well.
Break a leg.
No, I like playing football. I don't want to break a leg. Okay, so since I don't have slides, and usually the main point that I want to make whenever I give a talk is to give people my Twitter handle. So if you're on Twitter, I'm Sebawita, which is like the first 4 letters of my first name and the surname. That's a W. So yeah, like you have to improvise. You know, I can add you a little, picture of a little bird. There's a beautiful bird park in KL, right? It looks like what? A cat. A cat? No, it's not a cat. Have you seen a cat? Just kidding, just kidding. All right, so the title of my talk is Find Another. And the idea behind this was, what can you use to give a talk? Like how can you control your nerves, and what sort of techniques I use, and what sort of things you have. And actually, the reason why I don't have slides is because the focus, it should be about actually delivering it, right? And it's actually even one of my points. When you go in and giving a talk at a conference, you should be giving a talk, not a presentation. And the difference really is, the slides are there to assist you, not to control you, right? Like you should never go like and read the whole things, Don't do like Alex reading quotes. You can read them. Just kidding, just kidding. I mean, no, like there's times where when you want to make a point, you read that, right? Like Alex did. That was actually a right technique. But don't spend like reading, half of your slides, because that's kind of pointless. But I just had to do it, like you stole some of my time. So I do have some notes, because you should come prepared and like have some idea of what you want to talk about. So number one, if you want to give a talk, and when you're really new to it, and when you're nervous, like you see like, oh my God, there's so many people, I'm gonna get really nervous now, right? So what happens is, this was the first thing I realized. That was like my 3rd talk and everything, and there was like 500 people. It was scary as whatever explicitly you want to use. And there was this one guy in the middle, and he was like this. He kept nodding at me like the whole session. And I felt really relaxed, and I was myself, like I was giving him like the best presentation ever. I was not talking to the audience, he was my audience, right? And then after the session, I realized like this was like the best session I did in my life. I mean, it was the 3rd one, but still. And I was like, yes, this is gonna be like my number 1 trick. Whenever I go somewhere where I feel nervous and scared, I'll just look around, where's my nother? Do I have any nother here? Come on, yes. I have a whole bunch of them, yeah? So that's the thing I say. And so I told this to many like very new people to like public speaking, and they always found one, and you always made it, like amazing, right? Unless you're in Bulgaria. So in Bulgaria, nodding is completely different. Like this is no, this is yes. So you want people who go like this in Bulgaria. It's hilarious. I'm Polish, but still. Another important thing is be yourself.
right? Don't try to pretend that you're somebody else. Like if you're a quiet person and everything, come and give me a quiet session, right? Like focus on the information that you want to present to us. Don't try to be entertaining, you know, don't try to be a Sebastian, right? But if you're a funny guy, right, like drop some funny stuff here and there. Like it's super, super important. Another thing, how do you control the nerves? Before I go on stage, no matter how big the event is, I ask myself this one question. What is the worst thing that could happen, right? Well, I'm gonna go on stage, I'm gonna get recorded by Microsoft, they got all my data already with Google. But seriously, nobody's gonna die. Like nobody's gonna really get you know, hurt or anything. The implications are minimal. Like in the worst case, I'll have 100 people who had a terrible time, right? But seriously, like in the life scale, like of your whole lifetime, I would rate it about 2 out of 10, maybe 3 out of 10, right? If you do well, it's probably like 8 out of 10 because you're so excited, right? So this is the whole point, like do not be too nervous, because if it doesn't go well, like, well, you try another time. It's fine, it's okay, it's fine to fail, it's fine to do something badly, right? Like it's not a problem. And I think like if you think about it like philosophically in this way, like you should be able to just come on stage like, hey, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least I want to give it my best try, you know, like just do it, you know, this is the point. What's next? The imposter syndrome. We all have it to some extent. And it's a really funny thing because when you come to a conference and you see all these people, you know, all these public speakers, they speak like 20 events a year or even more and everything, and you think like, oh my god, they know everything. Collectively, yes, possibly. But individually, we are experts in small fields and very often not even experts. We just know the 20 slides we have and nothing beyond. That's why we don't turn up to Q&As, you know? So like, do not worry. Like if you come on stage giving a talk on specific thing, make sure that you just know enough for what you're talking about, for your 20-minute session, 40-minute session. This is the important part. And that's how you should be really preparing for it. Another thing, drink water. It's funny. You think like, well, I have to be hydrated. I think no, none of it. What happens is you're giving a talk, and then you went really fast, and then you got tangled up in your brain. It was like, what am I even talking about? And this is the moment when you put your microphone down. And you continue, right? And the thing is that this is the moment where I can switch off for a second, and it's perfectly fine. None of you mind this, right? But this is the moment where I compose myself. I'm trying to come back to my presentation. So it's like, okay, so I so far said this, this, and that. Oh, I have to make this point, so let's go and move on to the next thing. And people don't mind that. Like, of course, don't stop every 30 seconds for 30 seconds. But if you spend at least, 20% of the time drinking water, well, you'll be well hydrated, right? That's basically the idea. So drinking water or taking any sort of breaks is very important. Also, even if you don't get tangled up, sometimes you make a very important point, then you stop and let people think for a moment, right? So also, that's another thing that I'm moving on to. When you're giving a presentation, don't try to talk about too many points. Don't be like me, right? But if you say like, okay, I'm gonna talk about this specific thing, maybe something of RxJS and something, don't try to talk about every single thing that you know about it, right? Think of what would be my 3 key things I want to talk about, right? Like, and make sure that you deliver on 3 really well, rather than do a talk on 20 things and nobody knows what's going on. But when you do have those sections, it's important that you actually make breaks in between those 3. So when you finish the point, have a slide with like a funny cat or Alex pissing or something, but make sure that people know that you finished something, right? Like take a tiny break and then jump onto the next thing. So have something that kind of differentiates that. Be prepared to improvise. I guarantee you something will always go wrong, like to some extent, and it's perfectly fine. As like even when I'm in the audience, I'm perfectly fine. Like, oh, something's going wrong. It's like, oh, let's laugh at him. No, that's not how it works. It's like we all been there, like in life, even not just in public speaking. And the next point is actually a bit of a story. When I was like a teenager, I went to a theater play with my sister, and it was a really cool play. Like I was basically crying, laughing. It was so funny, right? So the next day, I tell my dad, I was like, "Hey, the play was amazing." And my dad was like, "Oh, going to a theater? Like, who do you think I am?" And I was like, "You're my father. Come to a play with me." So we went to the play, and we watched it, and we were laughing our asses off. And then I realized that although it was the same title, the same play, and like the same script, sort of same actors and everything, I actually watched a different play to some extent. What was different is in the previous play, they made a joke at this point and another point, but the next time they didn't do that joke. They did something different. At one point, like one of the guys completely forgot the whole speech that was very important to talk, but nobody in the audience, except for me, because I went the second time, knew about it. And this is also a very important point. When you're giving a talk and you forgot about something, don't go back. Like it's okay to continue, unless this was the main point, like my Twitter handle. Then you go back, right? But if it's not like critical, just move on. People won't know. Like you can kick yourself in the shin later. Don't do it on stage. It doesn't work. I tried, but it's fine. Yes. If I'm the audience and you're giving a talk to me like you would talk to me if we were one-on-one. I actually genuinely believe, and many of you won't believe me, but I believe talking to 3 people is as bad as talking to 3,000. It's like the difference is only in numbers. And if you're really scared of numbers, find your nother, or just look at the first person in front of you and just talk to this person. But don't try to change your voice and all of a sudden sound more perfect or something. Just like talk to somebody like you would talk to your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your father or mother or anybody. Like just try to explain things in a simple way. And really, whenever you talk like that, you are like really yourself, you're really genuine, and that's usually how it works the best. Yes, I have 2 last points. So give people, like when you're giving talks, also like give people enough to get them interested, but don't give them everything necessarily. Like if you have just 30 minutes or like me 10 minutes and going 5 minutes over, then you just give people like some information to get them excited and interested about it, and then you can go dive in and then you can figure out what else is there. And what I had one more point and I forgot because I didn't note it down. Yeah, prepare before a session. That usually works. Okay, here's the last one. So if you ever see people like you go to like an Angular event, you go to NGConf, and you always see the Google team like speaking, like they speak really well. Like the sessions are amazing, really detailed, really well prepared. And I asked them like what do you guys do? And when it turns out the answer is always the same. Like we prepare and we give sessions to each other, right? So if you're really thinking of doing public speaking, like don't try to just prepare by yourself at home. Find another person, right? Or if you know a local speaker, we are very happy to help you, right? So we could even do like a Google Hangout or something. Let's make a call, and then you call me, like you give me the whole presentation as if it was the real thing, and then I can give you feedback. So like prepare and rehearse and then work on it. But most of all, look for another and be yourself. Thank you. I love you too, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. Next up, we have Thomas. And he's going to talk about Release Butler, Twitter bot that helps you stay up to date.
You want the crocodile?
Doesn't matter.
Let me hold this. Do this and I can help you with that.
Hello?
No, I'll hold just, you can probably move the laptop, right? I'll take it for you.
Shit. Hello? Okay. All right. Yeah.
Of course.
Does this work? Oh, this not.
Is both? Should I? Okay. Ah. So, can we start? Okay, hello everyone. So as Alex said previously, so we should kind of like build shit. So this is mostly about that. So I built something like a year ago, and it is basically me sharing like about a story about like a side project. So basically it's a release butler. And but first let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Thomas Trajan and I'm a Google developer expert for Angular. So I'm very happy to be here in the Kuala Lumpur because of the EngineersMY conference, which was organized by the Jesselyn. Thank you, Jesselyn. And it was an amazing conference. So, but yeah, let's get to that. So what is a release butler? So it's a Twitter bot which kind of helps you stay up to date with the releases of the popular front-end frameworks and libraries. So stuff like Angular, React, Ember. It's not like making fight. It supports all the popular frameworks, all the languages. And basically what it does is whenever there is a new release, it will kind of try to get the screenshot of the changelog and make a tweet. So, and this is because like people are interested in what is new and they want to be up to date. They want to use all the new features in their frameworks and they want to get really productive, right? So, and besides that, there are like 33 front-end frameworks and libraries which are supported. So as I said, like it's like Angular, React, Vue, Ember, but also stuff like Prettier, so like tooling or like RxJS, NGRX. There are many of them. But there is actually more. So Release Butler comes also with a website. So if you are a creator yourself, if you have some like open source library, you might be interested in like getting nicely styled changelog, let's say for a blog post or for a social media. So you can go to the releasebutler.now.sh and basically fill out the repository and which version you are interested in. It has like 9 themes, so it doesn't have to always look the same, and you can get like this nice screenshot of your new version of your library or something like that. And one more thing, that actually is also a chatbot. So if you are on Twitter and you follow Release Butler, you can like open a chat and you can try to type /help or stuff like here, so like /release Angular version 8, and you will get the changelog there in your chat. So it's like very convenient. You don't even have to go to the website. You can just like put it right there and it will be delivered right to you. So feel free to try it out. So it was released like a year and 2 months ago, I think, like around May in 2018. And in that time, it already like got more than 2,200 followers. And in that time also, like I think like more than 2,700 custom changelogs were downloaded. So people are kind of enjoying it. So the question, why did I create this stuff like this? So the thing is, when I was checking the Twitter, I saw very often the people were like doing this manually. So whenever there was a new version of something, let's say there was a new Angular release or something, then somebody would just went to GitHub, take a screenshot and tweet it. And then of course, like everybody in the community wants to also like let their own followers know, or like just the people they are interested in. So then there was like always that whenever something like the new release happened, then there was like suddenly like 20, 30 tweets telling the same. So I was thinking, okay, this is like a lot of manual work. You have to go, you have to take a screenshot, you have to cut it out, you have to write a tweet. So how can we like automate this? So that was like the main goal. So and how? So how does this thing work? So basically, the releases of all these libraries and frameworks, they happen on GitHub. So it's usually like open source. So and GitHub has an API which provides us a way to basically retrieve the tags of this project. So the Release Butler basically every half an hour it goes to the GitHub and compares like the latest version of this library, of all these track libraries with the version he has stored. And if there is something new, it will navigate there, like inject some styles, take a screenshot and use Twitter API to tweet it. So in terms of stack, it's built like a normal, it's like a Node application. It uses Yarks, so that's actually an interesting point. So it's actually, it started as a CLI application, which is also a nice thing when you are trying to develop like some prototype, make it as a CLI. So that means that you can like try like some partial functionality already without the need to have put it all together to see it working. So it started as a CLI thing. Another thing was it was written in JavaScript firstly, because yeah, it was just something small. And then like once you realize you want to add some more features, then you realize, oh my god, like I want to refactor this, and like I will break everything, I will never fix this. So always start with TypeScript. It's really much better. You will save yourself headache. Like I was spending like maybe like 2 weeks to get it to a shape where I could actually move on with the new features just because of that. Also, it uses like MongoDB, so I'm actually a big fan of like a relational databases, but for something smaller, like it's always best to use like the right tool for the job. So if you are doing something very simple, why like hold yourself back like creating schemas or stuff like this? Just put it there, it will work. Another cool thing is the Puppeteer. How many of you do know Puppeteer? So some. So for those who don't, it's basically a Node API for headless Chrome. It's extremely powerful if you want to do like some browser kind of automation, like for like some startup-y thing or like funny tools like this. It can like do stuff like injecting script, injecting custom styles, changing the websites. It's pretty cool. And besides that, like the website was written in like vanilla JavaScript and HTML and plain CSS. That's another great example of using the right tool for the job, because it's just like a very simple website with like 3 inputs or something. So even though like I love Angular, but then again, would it make sense? Probably not. Maybe in later, if you are building something which is like more complicated when people log in and can do stuff, then maybe it makes more sense to use like a proper framework. Anyway, so lessons learned. Use TypeScript, really. Whenever you are doing any kind of like Node or front-end development, start with TypeScript. It really helps, and you will thank yourself later. The GitHub API is actually much easier to use than Twitter API, which I was very surprised. As a first-time user, like it's a lot of things to set up, and like there is not a really good example. So that's maybe also an opportunity if you want to become like a developer advocate, as Alex or as Sebastian said, like to document this better. It's nice to implement CLI interfaces because you can try stuff out without putting everything together in like, it doesn't have to be all finished to try it out. Keep it simple, and yeah, also vanilla JavaScript websites can be cool. You don't always need a framework like React or Angular. Anyway, if you want to learn more about this, I wrote a couple of posts. I hope like the slides will be shared, so there is like a more in detail like how to make this work in terms of like how to get the screenshots with Puppeteer, how to adjust the sites you are visiting with Puppeteer, and similar stuff like this. And the whole thing is actually also open source, so you can check out how it's done in reality. Anyway, if you want to get in touch, there will be like many contacts in the slides, or you can install me using npx Thomas Trajan. And if you have a good console, you will get even links you can click. So that's also a funny side project, which can be nice to see. Anyway, thank you for your attention, and, and let's have a nice pause.
Thank you so much. We'll collect our speakers' slides and share it with you after the event. Okay, so actually right now we're scheduled for a break, but I just want to gauge, does everyone want to take a short break? Or do you want to continue? Okay, who wants a short break? No, there's no food. Oh, sorry. Sorry about the food.
Can I put this? Is yours?
But yeah,
Is yours?
there's no food left. You can take a toilet break if you want. Yes?
So,
No? Should we continue then?
yeah.
Okay.
I grabbed the mic.
Alright, so let's
Oh,
welcome our next.
Oh shit!
We're having a break anyway.
That was confusing. There's too
In
much.
case I recorded all your conversation.
Alright.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we should be. And you'll be wired. Oh yeah. Yep. If you're not comfortable with it, just how.
Oh no.
Better if it's upper.
Upper? Alright. Where? Is that?
Because if it's way too low, it'll be swinging around.
Oh, no. Is it fine?
Yeah, it's fine.
Perfect. Alright. Hello. Awesome. Oh, sorry. That's not what you're supposed to see. Yeah, that's more like it. Hello, KLJS. How you guys doing today? Good. Awesome. So I am Mashood, and I've come all the way from Karachi, Pakistan. I lead the engineering team there in a startup called SastaTicket.pk. It's a travel startup. And I'm also a web and Angular GDE, which means I do a lot of community work around Angular and GDE and web, obviously, sorry. And today I'm going to talk about PWAs. So how many of you guys have heard about progressive web applications? Show of hands. All right, a lot of you guys. How many of you have actually worked on a PWA? All right, few guys. Right, this is expected. That's fine. I'm gonna give us a quick overview of what PWAs are, and then I'm gonna share a story that happened with me in the startup I'm working on, and just to give you like a glimpse of what's happening. So what are PWAs? In this simplest form, PWAs are essentially just optimized mobile websites. That's it. And the whole objective of a PWA is to improve the engagement of the web platform on mobile, right? And why do we need this? Because if you compare mobile web to native apps, mobile web is kind of pretty crappy right now. So, and why is that? Because nobody really optimizes for mobile. Everybody goes for a native app. So when you use the native app, it's really, really nice. So how can we bring the mobile web up to the native standard? So this is a graph which shows native apps on the right and web over there. The problem with native apps is discovery. It's very hard to find nice, good new apps on the Play Store. Yes, if you're a big company like Grab, it's very easy. Just search and download the app. But even then, if I was on the move and I had to download the Grab app, and I'm on roaming data, by the way, I'm not going to download an 80 MB app, right? It's going to cost me a lot. So how can I make my apps more accessible? And that's where web comes in. But like we talked about, web is not really accessible. Web is not very engaging right now. So with PWAs, there are lots of different companies, including Google, Microsoft, that are working towards bringing native APIs onto the web. And the idea is that when we integrate those native APIs, like payments, like maps and all of them, we will be able to create more engaging apps for mobile. So for those of you who are interested in getting started, if you already have a mobile web app, you can simply configure this workbox. This is an open source project by Google, and it's very easy to configure this into your app and get started. And this is something you can play around with. If you just want to explore PWAs on your own, this is another thing by Google. It's another open source project called PWA Starter Kit. And this actually gives you a lot of things, including playing around with web components. And I definitely recommend playing with this. It's super fun. It's very simple, and they've just stripped down everything, and you just get to play with PWAs and web components. It's like the future of the web kind of thing. Yeah. Definitely yes. Yeah. And once you've built your PWA, you can easily test it using this tool called Lighthouse. Now this is built into your Chrome developer tools. So all you have to do is just open the audit tab and click on run audit, and it will tell you how awesome your app is right now. So one of the big features about PWAs is ability to run offline, because on mobile, one of the biggest things is that you're always on the move. So you might be in a tunnel or on the train or somewhere where you don't have internet, and that's where web completely fails. You just get a blank page. With apps, it's a little bit better. You get some sort of feedback. So the service worker is a background script that kind of works in your browser, and the whole purpose of this is to intercept every request that's going between your client and your server. And essentially you can run a custom script or use a predefined method over there and essentially control how you want to behave on the client side. And what this allows you to do is create different levels of cache depending on what's the scenario that's happening right now. So this is super cool and super powerful, and this is something that you can definitely use to build rich offline experiences. So right now I just want to share quickly of my experience of integrating PWAs at my startup. So when I'm actually the lead engineer over there. So it was my decision to decide on what to do when creating the mobile experience for our company's app. And I chose PWAs over native just because we're a small team and we couldn't dedicate native developers to this project. So we had to make sure that it was a good mobile experience. So our product team sent in some requirements, the basic stuff. Oh, you should see the home icon on the mobile screen. It should load offline, and even if you're offline, it should still load up. You should be caching some data and showing previous searches, blah, 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 blah. It's all easy peasy. I got down to it and started coding, right? Spent a nice day, I got ready, and it was done. It was easy peasy. It was very easy. So I tested it on Lighthouse, and I got the report. This is just the top part of the report from Lighthouse. So it says you're doing great, and I released it to production. Once that was done, I walked out of my office, head up high. I'm like, yes, today was a good day. I released something to production. Next morning, I came to my office, and after a few hours, my customer support team calls me and says, hey, the website isn't working. Can you please check that? And yeah, I opened the website, and yeah, I got this. This isn't good. What's the first thing that you do when your website is not working? You roll back. You roll back or you roll forward. We rolled back to undo all the changes. But unfortunately, when you're using Service Worker, rolling back doesn't help, because what Service Worker gets installed on the client side, and once it's installed, rolling back won't uninstall that. So now we had to figure out, how do we go back and fix all the clients we've messed up? So what was happening? Let me just give you an overview of that. So what we messed up was a configuration on the Service Worker. Our Service Worker was caching so we have a single page application. That means we load the index.html file for all our routes. And we were caching that index.html file. Now, whenever we deploy, it generates new URLs for each asset. Now, if you have the old index.html cached and you do a deployment, you can't access those old files anymore. Now, what was expected was that when we did a new deployment, the Service Worker would automatically update the index.html, but unfortunately, that did not happen. And so there were hundreds or potentially thousands of people who were using our product who could no longer access the product because, well, it was broken for them. So usually at this stage, what happens is you have to start mass billing everyone and ask them to reset their cache. Obviously, that was not the best scenario. So we started thinking, it's like, what can we do? So I opened up production, and we could see that almost everything that that was on our website was being cached. So the only way to reset the Service Worker cache is to run some script on the client side. And since everything was already cached, whenever they opened our website, they were not hitting our server. And this was not like a weak thing. This is a permanent thing over there. So they have to somehow reset their cache themselves or in some other way. So we were thinking about it, and it's like, how can we fix this? So turns out our landing pages were on the same domain, and they weren't being rendered to the single page application. So we injected scripts for disabling the Service Worker and resetting the cache over there. And that was just pure luck. It may not be for your case, right? That helped, but then we realized that people who were accessing the website directly had already been to the landing page, so they weren't going to go there back again. So we had to figure out a way that would essentially help them reset the cache by just accessing our website directly. So there's this very neat header that is supported by Chrome and Firefox, that if you send this in your response, whenever a request comes to our server, it kind of resets all the data on the browser for that website. So we said, awesome, let's use this. But we had the same problem. We weren't getting any requests from the client because we'd cached everything. Luckily, there was one thing that wasn't cached, and that was the favicon. So, so lucky us. So we decided to put the header on that response. And the way we did it was using Cloudflare Service Workers. How many people have used Cloudflare Service Workers here? All right, these are super awesome, by the way, and you can deploy them like in minutes. So I just went ahead, I wrote a small script and deployed it. It checks if a user has been on our website before, otherwise tags them and returns that header one time. So every user gets that header once. So if they have installed the Service Worker, it just destroys it. So we did this, and this worked for Chrome and Firefox very well. We let this run for a week, and I think we've cleared out everyone. So we had still some people on Safari and IE. What happened to them? Well, whenever they reported to us, we would ask them to go to a landing page manually, and then they would get their things reset, and then they would come back to our website. Not the optimal thing, but this is what we had to do. So, what did we learn? We learned that service workers are super powerful. You don't want to mess around with them, right? So, and this is not to discourage you guys from using service workers. This was a very, very stupid mistake from our side. This was just overconfidence. We just thought, oh, this is a cool feature. Let's get this out there really quickly. And if we just spent a little more time testing, we could have figured this one out. The next interesting thing was always having an exit strategy. Now, this is not just for service workers. I'm just talking about in general when you're launching features, right? So you should have feature flags. You should be doing a controlled rollout so that it's not going to 100% of your users, but it's rolling out in batches. And for us, having an exit strategy just meant having one script that was not cached. If we had that, I could have just injected the unregistered script into that, and that would have worked. But we didn't do that, but now we've learned. And finally, obviously, test. One of the biggest problems, the reason that got slipped through our QA was because the QA has this thing of constantly clearing the cache because they're testing on different versions. So they just cleared the cache and hey, everything is working fine, right? And they deployed it. So, so always test a little more at the end, make sure that your test cases are on point. So what's the conclusion? Well, PWAs are awesome. So please give them a shot. I think, I personally believe that they're the future of mobile web, and they really have the ability to replace native apps in the future. And when you guys are using service workers, make sure that you don't do this in the future. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maksud. Let's welcome our next speaker, RJ Award. He's going to present on web components with Vue.js.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, okay. You can keep this on your cover. It's the same cylindrical thing at the outside.
Okay. Good evening. So I'm RJ. Yesterday I was talking about Angular elements, web components with Angular elements. Today I was talking web components with Vue. So there's too much. So I will use Vue.js on Angular. So yesterday I used Angular in Vue. So today okay, since 10 minutes is not enough, so I will go through the examples. So I provide GIST as a step-by-step creating of Vue components. So you can use this from the scratch, and then you can anyway you can use Vue CLI with this. So for me, I create a folder, and after I create a folder, I install some dependencies. After I install dependencies, okay. Okay. After I create folders, I update the scripts. So I have the code here, so I will make this as. So it's an existing Vue.js application. You have a card Vue.js application, and then you have an app, and then you have a main.js. So basically, I have these 3 scripts using Vue.js. So first is a view serve. You just serve the main JS, and then the other one is just like build your web components. So the commands is view build, and then dash dash target, and then WC, and then after that dash dash name, and then your name of your web component, and then last options is the path of your Vue.js. So first I will run first the view. Okay, I will run first the view so that you can see how the Vue.js works. So this is existing Vue.js app. It's a card, a list of user profile. And then turns out I will create this user card to web components. So with using this command. So after that, it will create minify and non-minify files, and there's a demo page. So to test that, I have a basic JavaScript to test. And then I will use So this is the web components. As you can see in the in the dev tools, it's using the shadow root. So it's already web components for that. So now you see that we already convert this. We can use it in Angular. So I have some steps also here to when you use in Angular. So you can use Angular CRI for that. So the main part of this is I will update my Angular module. So the Angular module, you need to add schemas and then custom elements schema. So this will allow you a non-Angular to render it or to use it. Since we're using for loop, ng for loop, we can add common module since it's a dependency of the for loop. And we add a dummy data so that we can render it. And then we update our applications using this. So we have ng4, and then as you notice, you use this AR, our web components card, and then a profile. So back to the card, Vue.js, I expose props in the Vue.js, which a type of objects and has a default of the empty. So I put comments here that Vue.js will not support non-standard syntax. So because Angular has this in the template, Angular has an optional chaining. So you know in Angular that you can do object and then question mark that, something like that. So Vue.js doesn't support that for now. So I expose profile, and then in our template in Angular, I use this, and then there's property binding. Since Angular has 100% support on custom elements, they support property binding, and then you pass your property here. And then we add some CSS so that our app looks good. So yeah, I add some dummy data, and then lastly, I just copy this folder, all the files, on the assets folder of the Angular. And then lastly, there's one steps. So I need to add some script tag on our index.html. So since Vue.js doesn't include on our bundle on the web components, it needs this Vue.js. So we have this two script tag that we need to add it. And then I think I already ran it. Okay. So we can run 4200. So it's not running. So I need to run it. So honestly, I found when I enable IV on this project, I found some issues. So I disabled for now for the demo. So it renders on our Angular application. So you see that it's color green. It's Vue.js. So we can inspect that on our applications. So it has this, and then it has 4 AR web components, and it has a shadow root. Okay, I think that's all for now. So, and then I provide the link. You can put that, and then think.
Okay, we have 2 speakers. Let's welcome our next one, Michael Hadke. He's going to present on marble diagrams, the visuals of RxJS.
The wireless arms working. Okay.
You heard the wireless.
What? I heard this. Okay.
Just click it. Just put it in the pocket.
It will not stay in.
Oh, just put it in.
Test. Is it working?
Yep.
Working? Yep. Good. These two mics. Okay. 2 mics. I'm just 1 mic, but okay. Now we have 3 mics on stage. Welcome everybody. Today I will talk about the RX Marble design system. Here we see a small slogan. What diagrams are. Diagrams have the unique ability to express complex things simple. As I said, my name is Michael Latki. My last name is not really easy to spell, so we can stick with Michael. And today I made it official. I'm a fame bitch, so if you want to follow me on Twitter, this is my Twitter handle. Let's start, and this story started more than 1 year ago. I was trying to understand the snippet of the documentation of some particular RX operator. And I'm not sure how it is for you, but if I read this documentation, I'm always like, what? So I started to look at the diagrams because they are way more helpful. I give you some examples of the current diagrams. Map is really simple to understand. And if you look at the picture, it gives us information, right? It transforms values. We have something that is called last, and it also gives us some information. They are pretty easy to understand. Also really easy, merge, higher order, a bit more complex, but we could get a clue what it is doing. Then we have switch map, and that switch map I first started like, okay, now even the image is not giving me more information. Let's make it worse. What about window toggle? Oh, hold on. Zip all. What? Come on. No clue what it is. So tab. Now this is the best part. I show you 5 different operators, completely different output, looking exactly the same. Are you ready? Tab, subscribe on, observe on, multicast, publish, share, ref count. Oh, exactly the same picture, so they don't give us any more information, but they do exactly completely different things. They just replaced the letters there. And even better, there are a lot of operators that look like that. They are not here. So I started to realize it is not really easy to understand, and there is also no standard. So let me give you even more pictures to show you that there is no standard. Let's start with a simple one. Okay, there is another one that looks like that. There's another standard here, a try, a concat map, it's good. Scan, okay. Flat map with a bit more information, it helps, I guess. Okay. Switch map again with more confusing input, so I started to have so many questions because what I was trying is making a standard out of it. I was like, you know what, I just start a standard. How long could it take? 2-3 days? It's 1 year ago, yeah? I'm not done yet. But okay, I had so many questions and I just show you some of them that I asked online on Twitter. I was wondering what is the meaning of color in diagrams? I was wondering what is the meaning of shape in diagrams? What does it mean to have a shape in a diagram? There should be a meaning to a shape, right? I don't use it randomly. What are these arrows? Should I use different styles of them? Where do I put logic? So let me introduce you to the current system that I'm working on. I call it Marble Design System. And it is really a design system, so I created components. And this is a quick overview of all the components that I created. Beautiful, right? Yeah, you can picture it. But follow me on Twitter, it's better. I have time in my diagrams. It looks like that. Then I have a time span that could squeeze or expand time. I have an observable. I have subscriptions. I have then the running observable, and I have notifications that appear in time. They have a color, a shape, a content. Everything has a real meaning. It makes more or less sense. I don't document. I have the documentation here, but there is a meaning behind shape and everything. Then there is an operator. That's the white space here. We have operator scope as a function scope. We also have an operator scope. We have an operation, and then we have something that I call an event in time, and so on and so forth. So I have a lot of different things. I can also complete or error, and I can also unsubscribe. Just a very, very quick overview of my components and what they do. Let me give you some examples of the current status and some operators that you see what was the outcome of the last year of experimenting, working, testing, asking people. There's the map operator. Map operator transforms something, and whenever something is emitted, I perform a function to transform a value, and this is the FN circle here. I have filter. I filter out values, also done over a function. I've taken till, so I have some inner stream that subscribes and unsubscribes to something. I have switch map. Switch map was really easy to grasp at the beginning, and all the diagrams are, if you ask me, useless. Here you see that I perform I execute a function, take a value, execute a function, return an observable, and if I get a new value, I do an unsubscribe from the previous one and subscribe to the new one. And it's really, you can really see where it happens. Yeah, you have a point in time where you see what's happening. For me, this was very important, and this is also the main point of my diagrams. I believe the main value of those diagrams is not that they are standardized, but that they are visualizing the internal logic of an operator. And this is what we want to know, right? We don't want to see what's the output. We want to see why is the output looking like this or that. So the main point was visualizing the internal logic. Let me give you more. Tab. Now I show you some operators that looked exactly the same previously. Tab performs a side effect, so the transformation, this is gray here, is not affected. I only perform a function as a side effect. I have multicast here, and it really shows what happens. We have the connect call, we have an inner subject, we have a stream that we multicast to many different subscribers. I can also show you ref count. It looks completely different, yeah? Because ref count is not really interested in the transformations, it's interested in the subscriptions and unsubscriptions. So you see, these diagrams really can express stuff that happens and not just showing colorful circles. Observe on was one of the hardest ones because this shows execution context. I'm switching my execution context from a synchronous execution to maybe an asynchronous execution. Took me, I guess, 9 months to come up with an idea, and I'm not really super satisfied, but it makes it possible to grasp it if you know what those letters here are. For sure, you should read a little bit of documentation to understand it, but there are ways to really visualize it. What's the next slide? Okay, this is the last slide. Okay, let me check the time. Perfect, I'm in time. If you have any ideas on how I can improve it, if you want to watch my current work, I have nearly all rules documented. I guess I have to add 10 or 12 more rules to make it complete that are only currently here in my head. How do I finish this stuff? I thought a little bit because I was for sure prepared 3 months ago for this talk. So here I had a lot of time to think how I end this talk. And I really think it's cool to be authentic. So let me tell you a small story. The initial intro-like diagrams have the unique ability to make things simple. I was thinking a lot about what's my slogan? Because I put it 1 year of work in this stuff, what's my slogan? And I came up with 2-3 different really professional things like diagrams have the unique ability, or diagrams putting informations into compelling images and so on. And then there was this one day I was sitting on the Danube. I come from Vienna, Austria, no kangaroos there. And yeah, that happens, other stuff, but I was sitting on the Danube, a big river. I was having a beer, playing on a guitar. I can't play guitar, I was just playing around, you know, making music next to a stream. And I heard a song from Neil Young. I'm a big Neil Young fan. And it was Hey, Hey, My, My. And there is one sentence in his song that says, there's more to picture than meets the eyes. Hey, hey, my, my. And when I heard it, I was like, fuck it. So amazing, it fits to me. This is my new slogan. I don't care about this professional stuff. So this is what's online and this is what will stay online. This slogan for the new Marvel design system. If you want to check out the repository, here we go. You can picture it, and that's the end of this presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Michael. And now we have our last speaker of the day. Let's welcome Robert. He's going to talk about 920 bytes, 18
Yeah. Yeah, we should. No, it's not. Where's the? How much time I needed?
How much time?
How much time I needed?
You need?
Yeah. How much did someone count? No.
I think it's like 10 minutes plus 12 minutes.
Wow. Sebastian, your figure.
Where's the other one?
How'd you like it?
Yeah, it was good,
Pretty cool.
except this one installation thing.
Oh yeah, because it's got additional
shot,
so
so we are like, want to keep finish on time.
That's good. You can send me a link, then I maybe.
You guys can ask any questions.
You can send me a link, maybe where I can buy it. Anyway.
Are you very technical questions? If you want code in front, show the code to him.
Spotlight. If you remind.
Okay.
Alright, so before that, I'm just going to go through rush quick one. So I'm on your wall time because of your wall.
Excuse me, could we turn off the beamer?
Do you have to?
Oh, you just move it here.
It moves.
And all the other people that sit in front of the beamer?
Or
I mean, do you feel good with the light in your face?
I just gotta finish and close. Just give me 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes, okay? Alright, we got a wall time because we're gonna escape some of the wall. We have so I want to be a wall today. So that's the idea of it. Hopefully you know. And if you haven't saw the video hole again, enter KLJS video hole at KLJS the passcode. And when I was looking for the questions, this was the base I was like trying to find out what's the question. In case you guys didn't submit any questions. So I Googled what is angular, and then what is angular velocity, frequency, and momentum? I'm like, okay. And the last one is what is angular dispersion and how to make the adjustment. I'm like, okay, what is that? So no idea. And then the bad thing about angular, I'm like, okay. But then when Google people say is like, what's the good about angular? So that's how it is. So please ask every question with hopefully with a short response. So don't get you like afraid or something. Yeah. And please don't ask anything, like I said. So shoot your question away. And the first question is this. So you know is how to reject. So anyone want to answer that?
You can get a PhD in that.
Yeah. You may.
There you go.
I'm the wrong person to do it. Honestly, if you have problems with rejects, I think we can join the club because every time I have to do a regular expression, just do a lot of Googling and it'll eventually work. But I think, do you have a better answer? Because you're like an expert, right?
Actually, I love using regular expressions, even if I'm also not really an expert, but I see some crazy regular expressions. But what I always use, there are some online editors where you can put in text and then trying out these regular expressions. And I really highly recommend to doing it this way, then you will see how your code is working or not.
Or just ask your PHP friend.
Funny fact, you can DDoS a system with a regular expression. If you have it running on the backend and you send, so you have nested, how do you call this, you know, if you use the G, I don't know. So you have a nested groups, and you send a long enough string to the backend, it will DDoS your system. Just say, it takes forever.
So the only thing I'll add for regex is that use a lot of test data because regex tends to slip through in nasty places and that kind of catches you off guard.
Just don't use regex. No.
Regex101.com. Yeah.
So then the following question by video the most voted is to the speakers and everyone, do you guys actually learn through online video tutorials? Website like Udemy. Do you guys learn anything from the video or is it a scam?
So actually, that's the thing. Like everybody learns in a different way. There's some people who like to listen, hear things. There are people who have to see things. There are people who have to read about things, and there's also mixes of a bit of each. So there's some people that learn from videos. I do. I actually really like videos. I like visuals. I like graphs and animations that kind of help me learn. But I know plenty of people that watch a video and like, it doesn't make sense. And then they'll read super dry text and they go like, yep, I get it. So yeah, I mean, videos are pretty cool.
Actually, one of those persons who's as hardly to use video or video tutorials or whatever, I always use a trainer. I prefer to use a trainer, a workshop, because then you have people you can ask, and if you don't have the problem that you understand things wrong and think stuff in the wrong way. And I can also said from my experience from workshops, everybody's learning different, and the best way to learn actually is teaching. Teaching is really the best thing to learn.
Anyone else have anything to add?
Personally, just on top of what Sebastian said, I just like doing the practical stuff. So I'll open any tutorial, and instead of watching the video, I just go through the steps to find and actually do the thing. That works for me very well. So I do watch video tutorials as well, but I usually prefer doing the thing and learning from that.
Yeah, actually, let's build up on that. It's a good point. So, like recently in my company, we have this chatbot, and I decided to create a tutorial because I realized that like almost nobody in my company knew how to use it. And I actually made a very strong point of whenever you have code examples, don't copy and paste them. Like it's very important to type because when you type, even though you know how to do console log after the second time, you type it every time because you have to train your muscle memory, and it becomes natural. Like if you have to Google how to do a do while loop or something, you haven't typed it enough because you are always copying and pasting. So I think especially when you're learning, try to always type as much as possible, unless something is like you have some crazy URLs or something. But in general, learning, do not take shortcuts because you learn by doing. Like when I was a kid in high school, I hated to study, so I always cheating, and I was always making cheating notes. And by making cheating notes, I was cheating myself because I was learning while I was doing the cheating notes. I didn't know cheating notes. You see the connection. So always do, always type, always write. This is how you learn.
Yep. Okay, the next one would be, do you spend a lot of time coding after work or in the weekend? Anyone?
Yes, I'm like a workaholic. So anywhere, anytime, plane, trains, airports, work, after work, gym, you find me.
My answer is going to be slightly different. Like I don't code when I'm done with work. Like for me, like I work and some days I work like 12 hours, go crazy. And if I had to do even more screen time and more coding, then I would go crazy. But this is basically a personal thing, kind of thing. So it's different for everyone. So if you have that urge that you want to do more, sure, do it. But don't feel like you have to be successful.
So when you see my project, it took me 1.5 years to get to this point. So I did it on the side when I had the time and not organizing workshops. But it's cool. Actually, it's a good way to learn stuff, and I learned so much other stuff I didn't expect it. So I can also really recommend to do it on the side. Don't do it too much because open source can also freak you out and burn you out. So be careful with you, but just do it to try out.
I did it for a long time. I'm self-employed, so I work always, and I can't be sick, and I can't have holidays, and maybe all the disadvantages of being self-employed. And I had serious problems with knowing when my work stops and when my work starts, and I still have the problem at the moment, and I guess in the future. And for me, it's a constant thing of being aware of when you're done with work and when not, and I would definitely don't recommend to always work after work, because you will mess up your life and you will have no balance and nothing. Even if you feel balanced because it's very motivating, if you do it for a long time, it will not work out. There's no way, if you work all the time, that you have a happy life. It will work maybe for 2, 3, 4 years, but at some point it will destroy and you will realize that work is not life. That's my personal opinion.
That's very true. Like there has to be a balance, but on the other hand, when you are more like me, so I'm very lazy. So for me, it's very important that if I get inspired by something which I want to like understand or like want to create something, I have to do it then and there, because I can lose it like in 2 days. I'm like, I don't care. So if you are more like on that side, like on the lazy side, that if you get this like flash of inspiration, just go for it and make it happen. But then again, don't overdo it, don't do it always, because it can ruin your life.
Okay. Before we continue to the pigeonhole, does anyone on the floor have any questions you want to ask? You can put out your hand.
Yep, just JuniorMY.
So I've got a question for Mashu on his presentation for service workers.
So you mentioned that for QA has partly missed the error that basically you created, right? So the thing being here right now in most of the companies, QA is usually they usually trace back the errors from production, from the user all the way back to QA and back to the developer. So now I wouldn't say that. So my question is, has QA changed their ways to detect this kind of errors in the future, especially with service workers, white box testing, black box testing, and so on?
Yeah, definitely. This was part of the learning process, right? So at the moment, one of the things that, because we're a small startup, we weren't focusing on was having proper test cases defined for each ticket. And this was kind of a realization that, yes, we should have specific test cases for each ticket so that the tester knows what to test for. And in this case, the tester knew what to test for. He was testing the cache, but he never realized that this was the condition that would happen. So we do now spend a little more time on testing and making sure we've covered all the edge cases.
Alright, okay. Thanks. So we have another question. By the way, I'm guilty of that copy pasting. I do copy paste a lot every day. So, why would a company hire developer advocate? How is that different from a group of developers having a community in the company? And I think it's similar to another question. What are the exact roles as developer advocate in the company? Do you code? Yeah, they do code. So, but I let them answer. So, Alex, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I do code, and the problem is I have to write both production code used by a few thousand people, libraries for other people to use, and then I have to do all these cool shit demos to show on stage. 92 bytes of whatever for an article, how to use native script with random thing on the internet. So it's really hard to switch from, oh, I need to write tests, to, oh, I need to learn something in a day, good enough for me to write something. So I do code. And now, it's only part of the role. A developer advocate usually writes some code, blogs about the code, then talks to the developers who use that code and the product, and gets feedback from them, goes back to the company and says, look, the people using it are telling me it's shit, or it's really good, whatever. And then after product takes that feedback and makes it better, makes the whole feature better, you have to think about it again. How am I gonna show people this new feature we've been working on? Right, let me write an article with some piece of code about it. Now, why would you hire a developer advocate instead of having a community of developers in your company? This is gonna be a tricky one. First of all, I think you need the developer advocate in this situation. The most used one is you have a product for developers. You have something you want developers to use, and then you need someone who speaks developer. Because there's this running joke in the industry that says the best marketing email is the one that never gets opened. Nobody reads marketing emails. So if you want to talk to developers, you want to market to developers, you need someone who understands developers, not a marketer behind three execs and stuff like that. So you need someone who can talk the same language. And you'll hire that instead of a community of developers, because if the developers work all the time, they get burned out. You have to code all day on a product, then spend your nights being at the meetup, and then blogging something on the side, and then you're not productive anymore in your day job. So you'll hire someone whose only job is to be the bridge between developers and product. Now, there's a second use case which develops right now for hiring a developer advocate. Uber is doing it right now, and that's when you need to recruit. You need someone who can go out there and say, hey, we at Uber are really, really cool, come join us. In that particular case, I think hiring a developer advocate is really wrong, and you should have a strong community of developers in your company. Just be really good at training them to shout out into the world about the stuff they're doing. They don't have to be a bridge. They have to be a billboard that just says, we're amazing, we're cool, and come join us. There's no conversation to be had. I think you need a developer advocate when you need a conversation between your product and developers. Do you want to add something?
Yeah.
So yeah, I also work as a developer advocate, and one of the first points I want to make is in my team, the native script team, there's 5 of us, and each of us completely different things. And at the end of the year, when we have end of the year reviews, we score 10 out of 10. But if you try to make a rating based on one person and try to imply on other people, then you have one person scoring 10 out of 10, everybody doing 3 out of 10. So that's one of the other things. Developer advocates do very different things in very different ways. But I would also say the role of developer advocate boils down to really 2 things. One, take what the developers built and take it out and show to everybody else what we're doing, right? So it's this is the evangelizing thing, one way from us to you. But then there's the other thing is that you talk to me and you telling me oh, I've used your product and this is what I'm doing with it, and then I'm going to the developers and you see there's the communication from you. I'm advocating on behalf of you towards my team so that they do the right thing. And usually when I bring feedback back to my team, they go they did what with us? and then I was well, they were oh, this is not what we designed it for. I was well, but this is how people use it. Let's think about it, right? But that's basically it. Why would you want to have developer advocates? Is you want to get the right info from the community into the developers. Because most of the times, people who build the tools, they have no idea how to use them. This is the thing. So this is how we can teach them what people really want and what they struggle with.
Thank you. Next one. What would you recommend a student starting out? I think it's not just students, it's also more on other people who want to try out.
Anyone volunteering or something?
Oh, so the question is, what would you recommend for a student starting out?
For beginners.
Yeah, beginners. Yeah.
The most undervalued skill for a developer is knowing how to Google. I think, and copy paste. Someone said don't copy paste. Sebastian said don't copy paste.
Don't copy paste when you do tutorials, but you can copy paste solutions.
Right. I think the most important thing is Google it first. Ask a human being later.
I agree. There are different ways to start with learning whatever. So for sure, Googling is an important thing, but also asking and being comfortable to express what you're not knowing. Because a lot of people are uncomfortable when they see some really basic people and say, "Oh my God, I don't know this. I'm really bad," and then they skip this whole thing and don't become a developer. And when you see people on stage and you see these awesome people like John Papa or whatever, all these people, all these speakers are failing, and you have a lot of failing stories, and they are the same like you. So they just train and work hard to know some stuff, but everybody knows some stuff. The good thing is to learn. What I saw is there's these 100 days of code. Anybody heard of this? Yes. 100 days of code challenge. I saw a lot of our female community, and just put yourself every day a task which you want to solve, a blog post to read the technology, or just a view inside the framework, and then just try it out. And that could be a really good starting point. Pretty good answer, yeah. I liked it. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of pretty cool tutorials. Definitely, anybody knows how to use Flexbox? Anybody? Who doesn't? Alright, if you want to learn, if you want to learn how to use Flexbox, for example, you could use there's this tutorial called Flexbox Froggy. It's the best thing ever. You just make frogs jump around on your screen. It's amazing. But on the other side, it's when you're starting, it's actually best to have at least a very small group of people. Get 2 or 3 people that are like you, and then try to inspire each other, come up with ideas, and work on projects. Do things. Doing things is the most important thing. And sure, the 100-day challenge could be great today or for 3 years, but this information might be outdated if you watch this video in 3 years' time, right? So the best thing is work with people around you, because people challenge each other and they push each other, and so just always try to keep doing things. And one thing that many people don't realize, but what makes us a great developer, except for doing writing the right code, is actually the communication skills. You have to really get out of your comfort zone and talk to people around the challenges, and then be open and be vulnerable. We all get it wrong. very often, right? But when somebody gets it wrong, don't say you're wrong, your idea is wrong, right? Like just be polite at the same time, you know? And that's it.
Two things more on the soft skill level. I think curiosity and fun are like main factors to learn something. This is like the foundation. And remember how much you were forced to learn something and compare these two situations where you had a lot of fun while learning and it is like 1 to 10. And it is without no effort. You joke around and you learn something. And at the end of the day, you're like 10 times smarter than before and you had a lot of fun. And the other stuff is curiosity, and I guess IT is the perfect job where it applies because a lot of us started IT. I guess I quitted it in the middle because I was bored. I wanted to do something and I wanted to earn money. And after this, I realized that okay, all my friends that finished these studies have no clue about programming, and all my knowledge, and this is also for everybody here in the room, I'm sure, all our knowledge is because we were curious to explore some stuff that we didn't know. For sure, you learn the basics in the university and you know how to work with formulas and so on, but all the stuff that we at the moment do and at the moment know is stuff that we taught ourselves. We didn't learn it in school. In school, you learn the stuff that is outdated. Yeah? I guess. I mean, I'm pretty sure you have some up-to-date things, but in general, especially in JavaScript, then everything is like autodidactic. So curiosity and fun.
Just going to quickly add Google Summer of Code. So Google Summer of Code is an excellent program for students. So if you guys are students, then definitely check that out. That's very helpful getting into open source.
Like very quickly, so maybe like if you experience something like maybe like you're in school and then you get stuck, and from that point on you learn like just try to memorize or something like this, like always think about like just take a step back and take a pause and like until you fully get, and then you can move on. Just like don't give up at that point when you feel like you're stuck and you feel like there's like okay, there's no way. There is always a way. You live in a week, go have a walk in nature or something, and then you can do it again. So yeah, don't give up.
Okay. Do you have anything? Okay, so one of the questions is Node.js has been widely used in Malaysia compared to .NET. I can answer that, yes, there are companies are looking for Node.js. You can go to the world of OJS and you can search. Some people are looking for it, they're actually very aggressively looking for it. So, and this guy has a question, so I'm going to pass it to him. And anyone else have a question on the floor? Right, okay.
Hi guys, my question might be a little different. I need advice basically. I'm a designer and I've been looking for developers in web development. So you guys are yourselves startups. So my question is, if you were to hire for somebody that you don't have that skill in, for example, maybe design, how would you hire? What's the best way? What would you give me advice for hiring developers? Thank you.
Pay them well, stack the fridge.
I do that.
But no fairness, go with developers
one
now.
Would it be freelance as a start, like to do an MVP? Would it be a freelancer, a full-time employee?
Pay them well.
Actually, the work I'm doing is also a little bit design. So actually, by name, I'm a web designer, but I can also develop, and that's a good thing. And I would suggest you, so for hiring or for such discussions, it's always the best way to have a developer where the hired people can talk to, and when they can check out, okay, what is their knowledge and so on, and don't have these weird questions at job interviews. So maybe look for a friend which is a developer and invite this friend to help you have such a job interview. And then you can talk to the applicants and know what their values in development.
I know.
I think one of the first things when you try to hire people is have realistic expectations. Because like I see sometimes job description, we're looking for a junior developer with 10 years of iOS and 20 years of Android. And you know, like you're laughing, but those job offers exist. So So if you're looking for someone who's at the junior level, say like, hey, I want somebody who like has some basic grasp or something, but most importantly has the right potential. So if you want to test somebody whether this person could be great at JavaScript one day, the test shouldn't be coding. You should be able to come up with maybe some riddle or something. Can this person solve a problem? You know, like, because most of the time, like when we're coding, is actually about problem solving. And I think so. If you're looking for junior developers, before you even dive into that, or people who are complete green, make sure that you have the right environment to bring them up, right? So before you even go out, like prepare yourself, because that's a big investment to get somebody who's completely green, because it can take them 6 months to a year, but you will really pay off. But yeah, like, try to look for the right potential, for the right clues in people, and don't look at everything in black and white. So actually, one of my first job interviews, I failed a coding test, which was hilarious because the next job I went in, I rewrote everything like 20 people wrote in like 6 months. It was crazy. Because basically the first company had like a completely weird test that were expecting me to know magic, you know. But overall, like, have very basic goals and then look for the things that people need to get to the next level. Because if you just get somebody who's at this level and doesn't have the potential, then yeah, you hired somebody for today, but you should always hire for tomorrow. I hope that makes sense. Anyone want to add something? No, yeah, pay them well. Pay them well. Just kidding.
One thing that works sometimes, not every time, is reviewing their GitHub profile. So if they've done some open source contributions and stuff like that, that also gives you a good hint of what their skill level is. And if they're working on big open source projects, obviously they have the right kind of experience.
Just a short thing, which usually is hard for junior developers. I also would really highly recommend give junior developers a chance, because they can really grow, and every developer has to grow to learn. But a really hard thing is, what also developers have to learn is how to solve problems, not just to play around, how to solve problems. This is usually what just a senior at some point learn, but when you find someone on top of you who's able to solve problems, even if it's crappy code or it's not the best code, but it's the most important thing for you as a customer that the people is able to solve code and to solve the problem.
Okay. One last thing.
Alright. I have a last question, yeah.
Last question.
Yeah.
Hire people that are team player. Because if you have these egoistic persons that are super intelligent, super good and produce the best code, if they leave, you're screwed. Find people that can work in a team and that can support others and help others to get better. This is key for me to work with people. And it pays off.
Oh, okay. So I agree, team player, pay them well. Yeah. I agree with that. Pay them well. Pay me well as well. Yeah. And okay, so the last question I'm going to give you is about PWA. So do you think PWA is the future? Just to be sure, I'm okay with Asia and they are using PWA.
Yeah, so this is my personal opinion. It may or may not happen, but I feel that if we are able to bring the web capability exactly the same as the native capabilities, then web is obviously better than native. And we have some really awesome technologies coming in as the web platform is maturing. Things like web components, WebAssembly, and again, that's my opinion. I'll add Sebastian add something to it. But yeah, so I personally think this is the future.
Here comes the skill of the native script guy. Actually, no, I'm not gonna actually disagree. That's the best thing. Like I am a big fan of PWAs actually, but I do believe that there is gonna be need for quite a while still to have native mobile applications and PWAs. You're not gonna be able to get away with it. For simple reason, there's some people who just won't use Chrome for whatever reason. Like they just are completely against it, right? Can you run PWAs in DuckDuckGo? Maybe, maybe not. Like so, this is the kind of the challenge. That's one thing. So personal reasons, people might not trust it, right? The other one is one word, Apple, right? Like for Apple makes 30% on everything they sell on through iTunes. tell me why would they give it away? Because giving away, like enabling 100% PWAs on Apple devices is literally giving away billions of dollars. Like it's incredible amounts of money. So that's kind of what makes me really doubt. Like if Apple wasn't owning that, like I would be going like, I'm screwed, like I'm gonna move on to the next thing. But I do believe that it's gonna be a while until we could do just PWA.
But when you see the past of Microsoft, which was described, so also a big company usually does make a lot of money, can change the way they make money and why we should always. So you see also since how was his name? I always forget words. So you see also that Apple that's changing a lot, and it's not always the biggest and best company. Since the former CEO died, so things are changing, and I think the PWA could be a really cool option for every business.
So I'm not saying I'm gonna be right. I'm just saying like this is my suspicion, and that's like the logic. But like where Apple is going, like we can buy a monitor stand, you know, for more money than an actual new laptop. So like I don't know. I don't trust it.
It's okay, I trust the Apple. So. Anyway, any question? Anyone answer? Okay, last question on the floor. Anyone? Going once, twice. Oh, I think you got a lot. Okay, this is the last question. You can ask them later. Personally, one-to-one.
Okay. What advice would you give for people who are like self-taught, taking the self-taught role, like completely from a different background, i.e., mechanical engineering, and kind of just thought about this amazing world of people?
I actually went back to my university.
Keep it short, by the way.
I actually went back to university and asked for a refund for my tuition and 3 years wasted of my life. Some of the greatest programmers I know, one of them is a psychologist who used to work with prisons, and the other one started programming when he was 50. So I think as long as you have that problem-solving mindset, your university degree doesn't really matter. I finished a computer science university almost 10 years ago. And in 10 years I've got maybe 6 jobs across the world, and nobody ever wanted to see my degree. It's still with my university to this day. I put down on my CV that I graduated, and everybody was, we don't care. Nobody has to see my degree. It's still with my university. So I think as long as you have this problem-solving mindset, and you can actually code, you can actually teach yourself to program, that's the most important part, not a piece of paper.
Alright, thank you.
No, Sebastian, no.
Oh, 2 seconds. Okay.
For example, I also dropped out of university and nobody ever asked me about it, and I'm developed since like 10 years, so no problem at all.
Just keep it short. Just put on your CV that you have graduated from IT. You'll be fine.
Okay. Alright. So you can ask them personally. They're going to be around anyway, so you can ask them later on. So wait. Alright, cool. So I'm just going to finish it. Thank you guys so much. Just mingle around. Wait, we're going to do a shoot quick one. Yeah. So I just want to do this. So yeah, I just found it today. Okay, next. They are rushing me by the way. So yeah. Just quick announcements for any hiring shoutouts. No, right? Any agents hiring? Come to me later. Any shoutouts? No more. Okay. And the announcement is JSConf is coming soon. So you guys interested, definitely know. It's March 2020. I'm just saying. Just join the JS and then you will know. What was that? No, you will know. it's March. Okay. And thank you everyone, but stay on. So we have something going on as well. And because it's someone's birthday.
Come on in. Come on in.
So we for a cake and like gonna sing for him.
The picture's amazing.
Yeah. I found it on Google. It's come out second, right?
Come on in.
Yeah, I'm just gonna play the music too.
Hey!
This guy do it. Sorry, the song's screwed up.
Okay.
To you, happy birthday to you.